This will be part 2 of changing 3 engine gaskets. This will be the reassembly video, and if you missed the disassembly, you can go back one video, and that's the disassembly of Ruby's engine to do these gaskets and why we're doing the gaskets. Enjoy! Well, here we are, timing cover. Here's our new seal, goes there. Then I've got timing cover gasket. And then the kit also comes with the front of the oil pan, but I went and got the one-piece Velcro. So it comes with this, so I won't be using the one that comes with that. But okay, this actually comes with these little pegs that you screw in, which are gonna be really cool. I'd never used them before, but we're gonna give them a shot. So I am going to put this in. There we go. Seal looks like it's driven all the way back. We'll high-tack the back gasket on it and get ready to install it. It's one of those great things when you record 10-15 minutes worth of content and then you look up and you realize that you're not recording anything, and you're talking about how much you like high-tack, the Permatex high-tack, because it keeps the gasket from falling off, and how you got to make sure that the timing cover is flush with the bottom of the block, and none of that got recorded. So hopefully high-tack cool, timing cover services flush with the bottom of the block. Okay, now we've got that out of the way. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the pulley just to make sure it doesn't eat up our seal really quick. Alternator's back on. Where is our key? There's the key. Should just go back on. Gently tap it back on. Really do not believe I'm supposed to draw this back with that, but we're going to. Let's draw it back and nice and smooth. Okay, well, I got a couple issues here. One, I mean, this is all kind of back together, but these two pulleys did not, the crank pulley didn't go back as far as I remember it going. So the belt's not lined up, so I'm gonna have to shim that water pump out. I can't turn this bolt anymore, so either I've cross-threaded it and it's bound, or, well, I don't know otherwise. It's just not all the way back. Hopefully it'll seal. If not, I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do. So, but this is all kind of put back together for the most part. I'm gonna go climb underneath and check, make sure I have all my oil pan gasket off, and if I do, I can put my oil pan back on. Yeah, we'll go from there. Well, I got all the gasket material cleaned off. I didn't record any of that because, you know, how fun is it to watch someone clean silicone off of an engine? It wasn't that much down here anyway. Pretty well clean. The new Velcro gasket specifically says not to use any RTV on it. The only spots I am going to use RTV is right in the corners of all the sides there, front and rear, right where it comes into a corner like that. I'm just going to put a small blob of RTV, and then I'll put the gasket in. But we're not going to get that far today, because while I was getting things done here, let's get the camera up in here, boop, I noticed this. That is my oil pickup going into the pump, and the O-ring is gone. And you know, if it wasn't for the fact that that's going to take in air and not fill my pump, it wouldn't be a big deal. But because that is kind of a big deal, I'm going to have to disconnect that and see if I can find an O-ring for it. I doubt I'm going to find it today because, well, it's 4th of July, so I doubt anything's going to be open right now. It's 3 to 4 days since the last time I had a chance to work on this. The rain came in. It's been really hot. Had to mow the grass. Didn't want to work on it. But anyway, here we are. So, I don't know if I mentioned the last time I put this harmonic balancer on, it wasn't sitting right, and I was going to have to re-shim the water pump, and I just wasn't happy with the fact that for some reason everything didn't line up again. So, I went out and bought a harmonic puller and installer tool. Harbor Freight, it was $100. I'm going to have to do Rusty's engine anyway, so I figured I might as well have the tool. And I pulled the harmonic balancer back off just to double check that I didn't damage the crank by trying to run the harmonic balancer on with the crank bolt, which you're not supposed to do. But I thought, I can do it. No, don't do it. I didn't damage anything. Everything looks fine. I didn't gall up the crank or the harmonic balancer trying to install it, but I did, after checking everything, I cleaned up all the surfaces again, re-greased everything, put anti-seize on the crankshaft, used the tool to install it, and it slid all the way back on. Yeah, it was tight, but it is a press fit. But it slid all the way back on where it belongs, so I'm happy with that, which means now I can actually put the oil pan back on, which is sweet, because that will seal up my 2 major leaks. So I'll show you what this tool looks like. So here's the tool. Right now it's on the pushing way. So you thread, this rod has adapters that thread into the crank. There's probably 6 or 8 different adapters that thread into the wherever your crank bolt thread is. And then this threads onto that, and it kind of keeps it lined up. And then there's this outer piece, which I started to back off. There we go. I put anti-seize on all the threads on everything, and actually went in and greased the bearings that were on this thing. It's kind of cool. It's cool. This tool is actually a little bit nicer than I thought for being a Harbor Freight tool. So this is what actually presses the, you thread this piece, you hold this with your 5/8 wrench, and you thread this in, this presses this whole plate against your harmonic balancer and push it on. For the $100, yes, I didn't want to spend it, but cranks are more expensive than that. So this here, kind of cool because it's actually got a bearing plate in it, so it really doesn't put a lot of strain on this whole thing. It goes in really nice. To pull it, you just use the back side. To pull it, it goes like this, and then you back it out. It worked really well. Pulled it right off, and then like I said, this tool here, this part of it is just threaded in to the crank. Keeps it nice and square. Pulled it in nice and tight. Now everything should be lined back up again when I put the water pump pulley back on, and I will be happy. Oh, and one of the biggest reasons why I was concerned, I could have shimmed the water pump, not a big deal, if it wasn't in the right spot. But more importantly, there is an oil slinger that pinches between the harmonic balancer and the front of the crank. And if that oil, or actually the cam gear, and if that's not pinched, it's not going to spin, it's not going to sling my oil. So it was better be safe than sorry and go back in there and do it right. I was just under here doing the final wipe down, and I thought to myself, you know what would make this like totally optimal in doing this repair? If I put the oil pickup tube back in. So I did that because that would have really defeated the whole purpose. I stab a little bit of RTV here and there, and then put my oil pan on. That's snapped on. That's snapped on. Let me get the oil pan. Okay, coming all the way to me. Watch out, don't let you touch anything. And actually, you can probably let me put it up once we get it close here.
You have the rest of it?
Yeah, well, hold on. Stay right there. I'm gonna lift it up and then see these blue things hanging down?
Yeah.
There's 2 holes in the front of the pan that are bigger than the rest of them.
Yeah, I see them.
And they're gonna go on those pegs.
Aye.
Light brights.
Light brights.
We gotta clear a couple things coming up. Tell me when you have the front of it.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Go nice and slow. We gotta get past the pickup tube. Oh, we're way too far.
Are we?
Come back to me.
Not lined up yet.
Where am I? There we go. One of them on my side is done. Okay, now it'll snap in.
It just.
Okay,
Right?
that's it. Yep, they're hanging on their own. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Ow, my aching back. Well, I've never used those Felpro things before, and they're really nice. Get these things lined up. Now the pan just kind of hangs there, and I get to take my time to drop bolts on my head. Ow, that hurt. Let's see if we get this together. One. Ha ha ha. It is getting very dark out here, and my camera angles are really starting to suck because now I got a jack under here with me, and I lost the extension somewhere in the dark. Oh, look at go. I'm now off the torque converter at least. I have jacked, or I've lifted it on the oil pan now, so I'm actually pushing the oil pan up high enough to hopefully push these bolts close so I can catch threads. Like that, yes! Just hope I got all the surfaces dry enough and clean enough. Only time will tell. I'm going to go through and snug them all up, pull out the little locating pins, and put my big bolts in. Yeah. Yep, hold on. We are like a week in on this changing 2 gasket thing. Well, 3 gaskets if you consider the valve cover. And that just seems like a long time to replace 3 gaskets. But the hardest one to do is going to be the valve cover, because I'm replacing the valve cover with a metal valve cover. So the plastic ones on these things are kind of dumb. They have a 1/4 20 screw in the front, a 1/4 20 screw in the back, and then just these posts in the middle. So basically you get held along the center line. Nothing holds the sides at all. seems kind of like a poor design. And there's actually holes in the head, 4 bolts for the older style steel valve covers, but they're not tapped. So I am going to go through, clean them out, tap them. I think I have a bottoming tap here. If not, this may even drag into another day. I've got the valve cover. You have to modify the valve covers for this because the steel valve covers aren't flat along this edge like this head is. They kind of scallop in. So I've got to modify the valve cover. There's just RTV chunks everywhere. And then I've got to cut these posts off because I'm no longer going to be using these posts. I've heard of a couple guys doing this. They say it works rather well. I've never seen anybody actually do the filling in of the valve cover. I don't see why it wouldn't work, but with just the right amount of RTV on both sides of the cork gasket, it should be fine. So I've got to finish cleaning up this area, cut these off, re-torque down these the stanchions, and put the valve cover on. The starter is in, everything underneath is done. Once the valve cover is on, I can put oil into it, and we can see if it starts and runs without leaking majorly. But again, I don't know if that's going to happen today because if I don't have a bottoming tap here, it's not going to do me any good. The trickiest part of doing this, drilling these out, because they've got to be drilled out a hair bit larger for the tap that has to fit them, is that you're drilling right next to an open engine. And you don't want to get metal shavings in there. So I've got the drill bit I need, which is 17/64. And I'm going to put grease on the end of my drill bit so that when I drill it, hopefully the grease will collect a lot of it. Yeah, we're going in. Okay, that should be plenty deep enough to grab a couple of threads. Again, I've only got to grab a few threads on this because I'm only securing a valve cover. And the biggest problem people do with valve covers, especially these stamped steel ones, is over torque them. They really require very little torque to get these things to seal. So if I can grab 4, 5, 6 threads on a bolt and tighten it up to, I don't know, something like 30 inch-pounds or something like that, it's way more than enough that I'm going to need. So now, got material here, and just try to sweep it off, get out of the block. Go. It's a lot easier when I did Rusty's block because, well, it wasn't on the engine. It wasn't even assembled. But there we go. For the most part, we kept all of the metal out. I got a little bit of metal left in there, which I'll just run some more grease and not drill it, but just kind of suck it up. Grease on there. I'm not drilling at this point. I can probably go in reverse. Push some of that grease down in there. Just try to get as much of this metal out as possible. Okay. So this is not a bottoming tap, but it's a very shallow tap, so I'm hoping this is going to work. I'm actually probably going to have to put it on a socket. I'm going to use that same grease that's still in that hole, and we'll start to tap it. And again, we'll see how many threads we get. Okay, start back in again. We started the thread. Back it out a little bit. tighten it back in. Feel cutting good thread. Looking pretty straight. I might be a hair bit crooked, but I don't think so. Back it back out. Clean off the threads. See what we've got. But we're pretty good. We've got probably a 1/4 inch. No, we've probably close to a 1/2 inch of thread in there now. Again, because of what we're doing, we don't need to go crazy with our threads. Just holding the valve cover on. We gotta be careful we don't bottom out and keep going though either, because if we do, I'll strip out the threads we have and then we'll have to go bigger, and I don't want to have to go bigger. So I think I just bottomed out. So we stop. We'll clean it out and see if our bolt threads into it. Another paper towel. Don't be shy on the paper towel use when doing this. Brought up a whole bunch of material, but I kind of wrapped the paper towel over it, so I think I caught the majority of it. You can see. Okay, let's get our bolt. Got 3/4 inch bolts. I can always cut them down if I need to. A little bit of fluid still in there, which is not good. Again, you gotta make sure that's cleaned out. If you do not make sure that is cleaned out, and you thread into a hole that's got fluid into it, you can crack your block or whatever you're working on, because fluid doesn't compress. Oh yeah, we've got threads almost all the way down. Yeah, that's it. It's got a little bit of wiggle to it, but I'm okay with that. I'm just holding the valve cover on. So I've got 4 more of those to do. If they all go that well, the valve cover can go down. Okay, the bolt holes are all cleaned and tapped, and everything's looking fantastic. Everything went really well. The biggest ones you got to worry about are the ones on this side, these two, like that one there, because those are really close to the water jacket, and if you drill into the water jacket, I mean, it's not, I don't think it'd be a major problem, because you could probably just put a stud in there and Loctite a stud in there and it'd probably be okay, but not drilling into it is your best option. The last thing left to do to get this valve cover on is we have these 2 studs. You have this one here and that one right there, and those are gonna have to come off. So that is the next step. Hold on, let me turn this around. Now that we've got everything done with those stanchions, we're gonna have to cut those stanchions short because they won't work with the metal valve cover. And those rocker brackets are designed for each individual rocker, so we have to make sure they go back into the same spot. So when we take them off, they have to go back on the exact same pair of rockers, and they are torqued to a specific torque spec. So we're going to end up taking them off completely. We'll take them to the bench, we'll cut them clean at the bench, and then we'll put them back on. And once they're back on, we'll torque them down, and it'll be like, you know, it'll be like the rest of the ones that are on there. So that's the plan. Everything is clean down here. I've sprayed the surface down a couple times with brake cleaner, as clean as I'm probably gonna be able to get it. I'm going to run high tack on the, what I would consider the flattest part of this, though the milling of this head, whoever did this in the factory, is not great. There's like a step on the front and rear, which is crazy to me. I think that's was factory done, but whatever. I'm going to put high tack on this surface to put the gasket down and just kind of hold it there, and then I'm going to put RTV on the valve cover side because I know where I welded the valve cover in is not perfectly smooth, so the RTV will take up a little bit of slack. I should probably RTV both sides, but just in case it has to come off, this high tack will peel without damaging the gasket. Pretty bad. That's all well enough. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing. And try to lift up as high as you can on that. If I can get this underneath it without touching it. Just a little bit. Just get everything there. I'm not quite sure what I hit. I think I hit everything. I'm not quite sure if it's going to seal or not. Hopefully we will. We have 5 squish screws, or 7 squish screws. We will see how that goes then. Okay, thank you, babe. So from what I was reading from most of these guys who are doing these CJ7 valve covers, they are using the cork gaskets, and they are just going till the RTV starts to squeeze out. And that is it. That's the max torque they're going on them, and they seem to be having the best luck with keeping these things from just seeping oil and leaking everywhere. So that's what we just did. We kind of just went around starting from the middle, working out, and just squished them to where the gasket was, or the RTV was just squishing out. And that's where we're at. And it looks pretty good. We'll let this sit overnight, and tomorrow when I get home from work, we'll put oil in it, and we'll start it up again. And hopefully, it won't be leaking nearly as much as it was before. That's pretty much all I'm asking for. Not as much as it was before. So we'll go from there. Home from work, and we've given the valve cover and the gaskets, the RTV, 24 hours to, actually a little over 24 hours to set. And I put oil in it, so that's good. I put an oil that's got zinc in it because this is a flat tappet engine. So zinc is our friend. And I don't have a catalytic converter, which is not our friend. So, there is water in the radiator. I'm going to go turn the key, and we'll see what happens. All of our linkages, nothing's binding. Nope. We got fuel. That's really close to the fan, but I don't think it will hit it. Choke cable, or auto choke's hooked up. No lines are touching anything they shouldn't. Let's see what happens. I just forced it out of choke. Oh, we got some choo-choo trains going over here. We'll just not worry about those for right now. Oh, it's a lot of air pressure. Yeah, that's not good. We're pressurizing the valve cover pretty heavily. Yeah, that's... I didn't think it was that bad. That is a lot of blow-by. Let's see what kind of oil pressure we have. So at idle, we're running about, what, just shy of 35. That's not bad. I have a new temp sensor coming in. Hopefully that'll solve this, not knowing what my temp is. And I do have a rough idle, but wow, this is bad though. I might have to put some kind of something in there to see if I can help those rings a little bit. Wowzer, it's a lot of blow-by. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, well, we deal with it as the problems come. The most important thing is currently there is nothing dripping on the ground, which is what we were here to solve. Which I'm ecstatic about, so that is good. Very awesome. Well, with Ruby running and it blowing more smoke than a truck rolling coal, we'll leave it with this episode. Taking a little over a week to replace 3 gaskets. It is what it is. I want to thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope everybody has a great week.